Hey everyone, we are back with another video. It's been quite a while, but for today I'll do an update on the Retroarch or Retroarch, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm still not sure. Video I did back in 2021 maybe. So it's been a while, so I thought I'd do a quick video, and it will be quick, hopefully, no more than 20 minutes. Basically, how to do a basic setup in Retroarch to get yourself going. So things have been streamlined since last time, so it should be a bit more straightforward. But without further ado, the first thing you want to do is download Retroarch. So just navigate to retroarch.com, click here, it says get Retroarch, and you've got nightly builds, which, as it says, comes out every night. They're unstable builds, or download the stable build. Just click download stable, it automatically detects what OS you're on. It says here I'm on Win64, which I am. But if you want to download it for other operating systems, there's a plethora of operating systems it runs on. But the main one we're looking at today is Windows. You can do an installer download, 60-bit or 32-bit, depending on what operating system you have, or just do a download where it downloads a zip file. So that's portable. So you can stick it on a USB stick, take it to another computer with all your games on, or around your friend's house, and you're good to go. So after you've downloaded it, and I have installed it to my D drive, and basically I've created the Retroarch folder, and I've got a ROMs folder, and I've got a BIOS folder. So I've already added some ROMs to these folders. So you've got Game Boy Color, Mega Drive, PlayStation, and Master System. Just a few selection of games. Don't need a lot of games for this tutorial. And also a BIOS file. Now, some game systems, mainly stuff 32-bit CD based, do require BIOS files. So stuff like your PlayStation, your Sega Saturn, will require BIOS files for them to work. They're copyrighted. They're not included in Retroarch. I can't tell you where to get them from, but a Google search will help you. The same with the ROMs. No ROMs come with Retroarch. But said, as for CD-based, mainly CD-based systems, you do need BIOS files. So make sure you know you have them beforehand. So without further ado, let's load up Retroarch. And the first time you ever load Retroarch, it will be in a small window. If you push F on the keyboard, it will then make that full screen. Now, the very first thing you want to do is you can either use your controller or on the keyboard with the keyboard arrows. I should just turn on my Xbox controller now, and hopefully Retroarch should identify it. And you see down the bottom there it has. So if we scroll down to Online Updater, and the first thing we want to do in here is update all the databases and files for Retroarch, because while their stable build, I think it's 1.20 for Retroarch, there is stuff done in the background daily which isn't added to the stable build, so we can download these manually ourselves to get Retroarch updated. So we want to update core info files, update assets, update controller profiles, update cheats, update databases, overlays, and the shaders. So shaders is stuff like you can add scanline effects on the top. Once we've done that, on-demand thumbnail downloads. So this is when you can create system lists with your games that you have on in your folders, and if you turn this on, it will download some nice basic artwork for yourself. So let's enable that, and then core downloads. So in Retroarch, cores are basically the emulators. So if we go into here, there are tons of emulators. You've got your arcade stuff. Usually I use Final Burn Neo, and then MAME 2003 plus usually from arcade stuff. But the stuff we're interested in today is Game Boy. So Nintendo Game Boy. So you've got a few Game Boy ones here. You've got Same Boy, Gear Boy, Gambit. I think Gambit's probably the most well-known one. Same Boy. I think Same Boy's supposed to be coming on quite strong now. So if we download Gambit, and then the next one we want is Sega Mega Drive, and also got Sega Master System games. Gen Plus GX here, that supports Master System games, Game Gear games, Mega Drive games, and Sega CD games. So that will do all in one. So we download that for the Mega Drive and Master System games. And then finally, PlayStation. I use usually PlayStation Beetle or hardware. Hardware version has, I think it has options for like correcting the polygon shimmering and warps you used to get on PlayStation games, where you could see like gaps between the polygons. The polygons used to be quite wobbly. You used to get like fisheye sort of effect on polygons. There's options in, I believe, the hardware version that fix that. So we download that one. And that, for this tutorial, that's our emulators, or the emulators we need. Now, if we go to back out of here, push B on the Xbox button, and configuration file, save current configuration. I always do this after a couple of settings I've changed, just because if it ever crashes Retroarch, it can wipe all your progress. Although I do believe if you quit out of Retroarch, it automatically saves. But if it crashes, I don't think it does save. So, a case in point, I was just now and again periodically go into the configuration file and save current configuration. Now, next one is if you go to the left here and go to Settings, User Interface, Appearance, and down here you've got Primary Thumbnail, which shows a box art, and Secondary Thumbnail. So when you make your game collections, I always turn on like screenshot so you can see the game. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of User Interface, you see it says Menu, and at the moment it's Ozone. I usually pick XMB, so basically it changes the UI or Retroarch. It looks like remember the PlayStation, was it PlayStation 3? Yeah, PlayStation 3 layout, which I think is a bit easier to navigate. But that only takes effect when you quit back out of Retroarch. Right, that's all for that one. Now down to video, and then output. You've got video drivers here. You've got DX11, DX10. Got loads of different video drivers here. Vulkan. I'd suggest either leaving it on DX11 or Vulkan. I guess DX11 is slightly more universal than what Vulkan is. It depends. See what your performance is like and swap between the two. You may find that one's better than the other. And then I've got 165 hertz monitor. So usually at the moment you can see it's up here set to 60 hertz. If you click down here to estimate screen refresh rate, it now changes that to 165. So that's that'll probably may help with screen tearing if you get screen tearing, if you have VSync enabled or disabled even. And then down here I changed automatic refresh rate switch. I change that to all screen modes, full screen modes. I think that's about it for this setting. And next one's scaling. So you've got introduce scaling. I usually have this on, but it's personal preference. It may make your actual game screen slightly smaller on your actual monitor you're displaying on. But what it does, it creates one-to-one pixels on the screen. If you have this off and you use scan lines, you may notice that some scan lines look uneven. So if you notice that, turning this option on will remove that. So I have that on usually. Aspect ratio, I usually leave this to core provided. So then the core, the emulator you load should automatically select the proper aspect ratio. But if you want to manually change it, you can. If you want it 16:9, if that's your preference, you can enable that here. But as I said, I leave this to core provided. The next one is synchronization. I have a G-Sync monitor, so I would turn V-Sync off usually. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to leave it on because I don't know if it's going to mess with the recording. And then if you have a V-Sync monitor, down here, you turn this G-Sync FreeSync option on. But I said, for the purpose of this video, I'll leave this off. I'll leave this on, V-Sync on. HDR, again, if you've got HDR monitor, turn that on. I do, but I'm going to leave it off for the purposes of the video. And that's, I believe, for this video section. If we then go down to input, retro binds, port 1, it should automatically detect that I've got the Xbox controller connected. It has, and it has automatically configured all the button settings down here. So that's good. Got analog to digital. If you'd rather use a your analog stick rather than your D-pad to control your games, you can turn that on here. You can set it to left analog stick, right analog stick, etc. But I'm going to leave that off. Again, you can save that per game option using the overrides feature in the configuration menu. I can go over that later on. But that is all for inputs in here. Hotkeys. You can set a hotkey enable button. So you could usually set that to maybe select. So if you have that select and say further down here you have menu toggle, so that will bring up this menu. So if you had that to select, you could push a button here. So say if you had that to Y on the pad, you then hold down the select button and push Y, and then it bring up this menu. But I usually use the controller configuration combination. So to bring the menu up, I usually have it as L3, R3. Click both those buttons and bring the menu up. And the same for quit. I usually have that as maybe start and select. Just quit. You can set a close content. Again, push and select if you selected select as your hotkey button up here, and then going down here and pushing, I don't know, start, for example. As long as you haven't got start and select in your combo controller combination, otherwise they may conflict. So you could have that too, I don't know, select and B or something. What I usually do though is fast forward toggle. So I usually have that to maybe R2 or R1, even R1 button, and then rewind. Have that set to L1. So up here, if I select, push, select, button 7. So now I'll hold select and push L1 or R1. I'll go fast forward and backwards. You change the save states. So if you wanted to save state, maybe set to L2 and then save to R2. And any other options you may want on here. So you can toggle full screen, show frames per second, loads of stuff you can do in here. We'll be back out of that. What is next? Maximum users. I usually change the maximum users to 2, because I doubt I'm ever going to have 8 people on here. I don't know if that affects anything, but I always like to do that. And the other one is quit to confirm. So if you quit, it will ask you to confirm if you want to quit RetroArch. Then you have to push, in my case, start and select again. So So I turn that off, so I only have to push it once. And I believe that is it. Then the next one is latency. I changed the audio latency from 64 down to 32. I've got a quite powerful system, so this shouldn't be a problem. So it stops slight latency in audio, which some people detect it, some people don't. But if you find you're getting like audio skipping, change that back to 64. I turn on automatic frame delay, so that will help with input latency and input latency of the display. At the moment, you can see that's automatically switching itself between 1 millisecond and 3 milliseconds. Run ahead. Run ahead can be a bit funny with some games. Some games may feel a bit odd if you have run ahead on. Again, this helps with input latency. I understand that preventative frame mode is the better option to pick, and some of the Retroarch cores and emulators don't support run ahead. I think MAME was one of them that didn't support run ahead, but it does support preventative frame mode. So if you want to get your input latency down on arcade games, which some games can be quite laggy, enable that, and then you can change the frames. Usually 2 is quite a good setting, so 2 frames. Next one is saving. I have, where is it here? Where is it? Save thumbnail, save thumbnail states. I turn that on. So every time you make a save, it creates a save file. You can also have auto save and auto load enabled. So basically, when you quit your game, it will make a save state, and then when you start that game back up again, it will automatically load that save state, so you can carry on from where you want to. I sometimes have that on and off, but it's a good feature to have if you're just playing one game and you want to just carry on where you left off. This is a really good option to enable. I think that is all for this menu. Configuration. Make sure save configuration on quit is enabled. That should always be on, but just make sure it is. So whenever you quit, it will automatically save the configuration. You don't have to manually go into and save the configuration. Achievements. You can enable retro achievements. So you can have achievements for your old games. Just go to, I think it's retroachievements.org website and register. And once you've registered, you add your username and password on here. You add them in these 2 bits there, your password and username. Hardcore mode, basically if you enable cheats, achievements will be disabled. So if you turn this off, you can have cheats and your achievements will still pop in your games. I usually leave that on basically because I don't use cheats that much. I think the last one is directories. So basically, when early on at the start of the video I was talking about BIOS files for Retroarch, we need to change this directory. So if we go parent directory, and then to our BIOS folder, in here, use this directory. Now that's saved there. And the other one is file browser. So basically this remembers where you want to set this to where your ROMs are. So go down to ROMs and then use this directory. Yeah, save there. I think that's everything for settings set up. So what we'll do is we'll go main menu, configuration file, save current configuration. Again, I don't think you have to do this because when you quit, it should automatically save, but I never want to chance it. I always save the configuration. And that's saved a new configuration. And we go down to quit. And if we load Retroarch back up again, we've now got a new menu that we set up a while back. Now the next thing we want to do is import our game library. So if we go over here to import content, we've got scan directory, scan file, or manual scan. I'm not sure when you want to use manual scan. It's maybe for some games that use different file types. So maybe stuff like PlayStation, where it's got like your Q files and your ISO files, maybe stuff like that. But usually I've found that scan directory usually works. So if we scan in our games, so because I saved in that last step, I saved the directory to where my ROMs are, it's automatically gone to the ROM directory, and I've got my ROMs folders here. So if we go to Game Boy, scan this directory, push B button to go back, and now over here we have our Game Boy games with some nice box art and screenshots. So let's add in all our folders. So Game Boy Color, scan this directory, Mega Drive, scan this directory, PlayStation, scan this directory, Sega Master System, scan this directory. Now these should all be populated, which is awesome. So let's load up a game. Let's load up Elisa Dragon. So there's two options here. We can either run and it will automatically ask us which core emulator. So as I said, some systems have more than one emulator. So if you download more than one, you're able to select in here, or you can set core associate. So automatically you'll tell always this game to use this emulator. Because some games might run not so much for the 16-bit and 8-bit, but some of the 32-bit emulators. Some emulators might run games better than other. So here you can set, okay, I want this game to use X emulator, or this game to use another emulator if the performance is better on one than the other. Then we go to run. It's missing retro achievements counts because I haven't added it. Oh, that's loud. Let's turn that down. So we've got Elisa Dragon here. It looks a bit pixelated, doesn't it? So we can change it. We can add scan lines. So if we go into the menu, go down to shaders, and we can enable shaders, and go down to load presets. And here we've got two options. We've got GLSL and slang. Now GLSL, I think that's for old video drivers, so stuff like DX11, DX9 and GL, where slang is like for Vulkan, DX11, etc. So I think the slang ones are more advanced, have more features to them, so they're better. So we'll go to slang, and then we'll go down here to CRT, and we can add CRT scanline effects. There are tons in here. Easy mode is a nice one. CRT, GM is nice. Guest advance is very good. There are loads to choose from. So let's just let's go to GM Deluxe. And down here, I always apply changes after I've enabled them. You can go to shader parameters, and there is stuff you can change, like you can make the scan lines more pronounced. You can change the aspect ratio. There's loads of settings here, and some of these shaders are really in depth. But after we've applied one, we go to save presets, and down here we have this is important now. We have a couple of options. We have save core preset, save directory preset, and save game preset. Now basically, core preset is, or any setting we set here, it will apply it to the core, the emulator, universally. So this shader will be saved to this core, so any game that uses this core to load up will use this scan line, which for most of the time that's fine. We have a directory preset. So any game in said directory, so for Mega Drive, the directory, this scan line will be applied to that. Now the thing here is, as I said earlier on, this Gen Plus GX core supports Master System, Game Gear, and Mega Drive and Mega CD games. So say for example you didn't want scan lines on your Master System games, but you did on your Mega Drive games, this is when you'd use this content directory preset. So basically, it would only affect ROMs in this directory, the Mega Drive directory. So ROMs in my Master System directory wouldn't be affected. So that's when you'd use that. And for game presets, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's per game. So if I just wanted scanline, a certain type of scanline on this game, but didn't want the scanlines on another game, I'd just use game preset. But as I said, here, universally, with this Gen Plus GX core, because it supports different systems, we do content preset. So just for this will apply just to Mega Drive games. And you see that preset's loaded there. We now go back out, and that's got a nice scanline effect added to it. If we load another Mega Drive game, this should also have scanlines added to it, which it has, which is awesome. And this game has an awesome soundtrack. This is why I don't get why some people say the Mega Drive has a rubbish sound chip. You know, I'll put my hands up and say, yeah, lazy developers create quite poor audio for the Mega Drive. And you usually find that on like cross-platform games, so stuff that was also on the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. 9 times out of 10, the Super Nintendo would have the far superior sound. But for actual Mega Drive exclusive games, the sound on the exclusive Mega Drive games, the majority of them was awesome. So yeah, I never get quite. I understand where people have this sort of thinking that Mega Drive sound chip was nowhere near as good as Super Nintendo, and as I said, for cross-platform games that usually was the case, but for like exclusive Mega Drive games, no, it's real good. Okay, so now let's go to Master System. Now, Master System uses the same, as I said before, the same emulator as Mega Drive. So if we load PsychoFox now, it shouldn't have the scan lines added to PsychoFox, because we did that core preset of adding it to directory only. So if we go here to shaders, go to load presets, shade slang, CRT. Let's pick a different shader this time. Let's choose easy mode. Apply changes. Always apply changes. Don't even know if you have to. But now that's added quite a subtle scan line to it. It's probably not even showing up that well in YouTube. Right, it's not as pronounced as the last scan line we had for the Mega Drive. So then if we go to say presets, now if we just wanted this shader to be added to this one game, one Master System game, we go to save game preset. So now it's saved it to PsychoFox only. Go here. You go to another game. And because we've only saved it to one game, we should load Rastan here. And it shouldn't have it hasn't got the scan lines added to it. So you can add the scan line to a single game, to the whole core, but if you do it to the whole core, just make sure stuff like Mega Drive and the Game Boy one as well, it uses different systems, it will apply those scan lines to the different Mega Drive masters and so on. So for that, you'd want to do directory override. Right, let's go to Game Boy. Game Boy, and as you in here, notice here, it doesn't look like a Game Boy screen. It's black and white. It's not green. So we can change that. Go down to into quick menu, and core options. Now in here, there's an option called GB colorization. This is disabled. Enable this. Turn it to internal. Now, internal palette is enabled, and it's DMG, which should be like the Game Boy Color one. Sorry, not Game Boy Color. The original Game Boy green screen. P-Soup, I think they called it. Which it is, which is great. But it still doesn't quite look like a Game Boy screen, does it? We can also change that as well. We back out of here. We go down to shaders. And we go to load presets. Into slang again. And then go down to handhelds. Again, in here, there's loads of different ones. But if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, the one I think looks the best. People say LCD 3x3 is quite good, but I think the simple text 4K one looks pretty good. And that looks more like a Game Boy screen to me. Again, apply changes. Don't know if you have to do that, but I always do. Save preset. Again, this is a similar case with the Mega Drive core. Gambit uses Game Boy and Game Boy Color. So obviously we don't want this green screen effect and whatnot to be applied to the core, because it's going to apply it to Game Boy Color games, which we don't want. So again, directory preset. Save that. That's now saved. We then quit out of this, go back, load up another Game Boy game, run that, and it's still applied. Awesome. This game, along with Tetris, I got this game when I bought my Mega Drive. I had this and Tetris, and this game was flipping awesome. Bit easy on the easy side, but I really enjoyed it at the time. Anyway, so now if we go to Game Boy Color, again, this uses the same system, but hopefully it will not have applied any of the shaders or the screen, which it hasn't. There's no filters applied or nothing, which is awesome. Again, we can go down to shaders. And what we can do now, we go to load presets. We can even make this look even more like a Game Boy. So we go down to handheld, console borders, and I think it's this one. It's added like a Game Boy bezel around it, but it's quite small, isn't it? Doesn't fill up the screen. So we go down to shader parameters, and the option we want to look for is video scale, and we can scale this up. So now you see in the background it's getting bigger. So I think 10's good. But you now notice it's cutting off the left and right of the Game Boy bezel, and that's because it's the aspect ratio. So again, apply changes. I don't know if you have to apply them, but after you've scaled up the bezel, save presets. Say we just want to save this preset just to this one game. So we'll go to Save Game Preset. It's still set to core provided, which, as we remember rightly, is in the video menu scaling, core provided. So if we change this to 16:9, you can now see it has the purple bezels on the left and right, so it's now got full screen. But this is going to, if we now save this, it's going to apply the 16:9 ratio to all Game Boy Color games, which we don't want, unless we're going to be using this bezel. Maybe you don't want to use this bezel on all your Game Boy games. The way we do that is we go into quick menu, core options, No, not core options, sorry, it's overrides. So here, it's similar to saving the shader ones. You've got game overrides, content directory overrides, and core overrides. Basically, overrides will override any other configuration file. So say for, I don't know, for whatever reason, just for R-Type DX, you just wanted this one game to have this Game Boy bezel around it. So you'd go to Save Game Overrides. So override saved successfully. Now, very importantly, once you've done this, you must quit out of RetroArch. I don't know if it's a bug, but that's the workaround I've had to do, because otherwise it just seems, even though you've done the single game override, it just seems to set the 16:9 to all to the Gambit core then. So let's go to R-Type on that. So that's kept the aspect ratio, so we can still see the size of the bezels. It's still got the filter applied. So hopefully if you load another Game Boy game, like Commando, you shouldn't have anything applied to it, right? Okay, excellent. Okay, so there's no filter applied, and there's no, and it's in still whatever aspect ratio the Game Boy is. So we can then go into shaders, enable shaders, load preset, slang, handhelds, and then down to the bottom one, which I think is probably the best one, Simplex 4K. I guess if you've got a smaller screen, use one of the other ones, but I've got a 4K screen, so I use that one. Apply changes, again, not sure if I do that, but I do. Save preset, and save directory preset. We don't want to save core preset, because I said it will apply this to the Game Boy one. We don't want to do that. So directory preset, applied. And now that's applied to that. And if we load up R-Type again, it's kept the 16:9 aspect ratio because it's got the full bezel in. It's loaded the bezel. Awesome. So last but not least, let's set up a what I was saying about Beetle PS hardware. There's options in here. So it's this, it's PGXP. So this, enable this, will sort out any wobbly polygons and whatnot. You can change the CD loading speed, you can change it 8 times, that makes the games load quicker. You can also change the internal resolution, so you can upscale it to make it a little sharper. Overscan options, the interlace, weave or bob, anything like that at all. Change the analog sticks, etc., etc. So we're going to go out of this, go to shaders, go to presets, CRT. Let's try advanced. Guests one. Guest is quite a good one. Apply changes. Again, not sure if you have to do that one, but let's apply the changes. And then go to save presets. Now, because this core only uses supports one system, which is the PlayStation, we can save core preset. So it saves it to the whole core. We're not worried about conflicts here because the Beetle PSX hardware core emulator only supports PlayStation systems. That's fine. I remember seeing this intro for the first time when I got my PlayStation. Unbelievable. You can see it looks quite a bit more upscaled. Actually, it looks a bit too much upscaled compared to the backgrounds, because the backgrounds are only bitmaps on this version. But yeah, that is pretty much a quick rundown of how to get up and running, enabling the important options, and trying to avoid the pitfalls of conflicts with different shaders applying to different cores that you didn't want it to. So hopefully that video wasn't too long. Like and subscribe, guys. Make comments. Anything I could prove in the future, let us know. And I'll see you on the next one.